Hi, I'm Doug from Greensman Incorporated. I'm going to look at a lawn here in Stow, Ohio. It's September 10th, 2025, and it's pretty dry up here. There's some areas that are a little bit more dry than this, but surprisingly, this lawn's not doing too bad for the lack of rainfall that we have. So let's get into the evaluation here of what I see. So the first thing I notice is that it's holding on to what color it can, barely. The areas that are struggling are the full sun areas, which I'll show you in a little bit in the front yard. And these areas here, they're in the shade of the tree, but these trees are very well established. And well, as you can see, I'll show you here in a second. This is pretty thin. You can see the dirt patches in here. Some moss. That's just not grass. So one of the things I like to tell customers is that as trees get older, and so do lawns, but the trees only produce more and more roots, less and less root space, less and less sunlight, and lawns begin to come a little bit thin. So here are the trees real close right here, and these happen to be maple and oak. And as the more you transition to the full sun areas, you get a little better lawn. So sometimes trying to force lawns to grow in those conditions I just showed you don't do that well. The other thing I notice about this lawn that's here, this is an older lawn. This has the colonial bent growing in it. It looks kind of almost wavy, lays flat, and unfortunately it doesn't handle stress very well. So you get disease and insect issues throughout the year. And the first thing I want to point out is I usually use like a business card here. So I kind of put it down on the ground hard, and I put the grass up next to it. So I don't know when this was cut last. I'm guessing probably this weekend. This is a Wednesday, and maybe if it was cut this weekend. This is 3.5 inches, your average business card, and you want to cut down to that height in the summertime. And if you can skip a mow during the summer, prior to this date, obviously, sometime in July or August, skip a few mows. That helps retain moisture in the plant. It helps it stay greener longer and develop deeper roots. So lawn mowing is not such a must to prevent dormancy. Overseeding. I'm careful to recommend overseeding in a shady spot like that because obviously the leaves are going to drop. And as I said before, there's going to be more and more root issues and lack of sunlight. So you might be back to the same issue a year later. Sometimes I recommend increasing the mulch bed size there. I'm not going to tell you to cut down the trees because they're beautiful, even though those may or may not be the homeowners. So let's skip up to the front yard on at least the side and then into the front. Here we are in the side yard as we're coming through here. It's getting a little bit of shade from the houses. There's no root competition because the neighbor took down the old arborvitae there. What you have here, you have a full sun lawn that obviously had some stress issues here. This could have been chinch bug. This could have been disease, dollar spot. We had a really hot summer here. And as I said before, the colonial bent grass, which has pretty much taken over this area here, has struggled. One of the tough things about this is that I'm going to recommend overseeding here because there isn't really much of a lawn left in this section right here, but just over there where it gets a little bit more shade as I'll walk over there, it's doing a little bit better. So this area here, we'd want to airfy and overseed this. Unfortunately, the colonial bent gets into everybody's lawns eventually. And there's no selective way that I think controls it effectively. There's a couple products on the market and they're hit and miss at times because this colonial bent has been here, who knows, I'm going to guess at least 40 or 50 years the way it's established. But you can see how much you see here is just bare dirt. And that's the most important thing to remember when you're seeding is seed to soil contact. When you get seed to soil contact through aeration, aerate and overseed, or aerate and overseed, or slit seeding, that's what's going to make it jump and grow. This lawn has virtually no thatch on it. I took a soil sample. We're going to find out what's going on with pH, if there are any deficiencies in phosphorus and potassium. You can see, almost looks like something was set there and killed the grass But underneath here, you're underneath the maple. Another maple in the front yard, not doing too well. This just picks up a little bit of shade from the house and maybe that tree, and it's done a little bit better here. Notice that this is more a mixture of blues and ryes. They've probably overseeded it over there. It's doing a little bit better over here versus the areas where it just seems to be dominated by the colonial bent. Looks like they did some overseeding here, and it's done quite well despite the really hot and dry temperatures that we've had this year. So things to note when you're thinking about overseeding: seed to soil contact. It's important to remember that if it's really shady, you might want to think about a change in the landscape. And how effective is the seed going to be if you have a colonial bent that's really thick and has heavy thatch? Just remember that. If you don't know, give us a call and we'll be glad to take a look at it. Got some patchiness here, potential chinch bug. We'll have to dig around and find those. Otherwise, surprised it has decent color for as hot and dry as it's been this August and September. Thanks for watching.